Welcome to the Locksmith Security Network. LSN is your powerful resource, hosted by Winton for all things locksmith and security. Alrighty, and we are recording. This is the Locksmith Security Network, episode 6, and my guest today is Lee Odess. Lee is revolutionizing the global access control market. He is building communities and sharing insights with driving innovation. He has security technology. He's a security technology thought leader and runs some podcasts as well. Lee, go ahead and tell us a little bit more in depth about some of the things that you're doing currently.
No, I appreciate it, Wayne. Thank you for having me. It's always these intros are always funny to hear, like people say, well, like, what do you do? Yeah, it's still not comfortable with it, but yeah. So primarily, what we're focused on is content, community, and really the today forward side of the electronic access control industry. We take a global view and leverage those things like content and community to help create a voice for the changes that are inevitably happening across all stakeholders within our industry. So as you said, I read a brief. We just did our 100th that we send out, call it every other week, sometimes once a month, it depends. But that goes out really looking at digital transformation and some of the stuff that's happening within the industry, observations, trips that I go on to go visit, and news and things like that come out. We have a Slack group where we have hundreds and hundreds of people from all over the globe come together to really form a tighter community, if you would, beyond the LinkedIn that we leverage to distribute. My LinkedIn account, we distribute a lot of information there. We do shows. We have ACS 25 coming up in San Sebastian, Spain. It's there because Salto's the city host of it. We'll have 170 executives from all over discussing the exponential side of what's happening in our industry. We, like you said, I do podcasts, audiocasts, audiobooks. We do white papers, all sorts of content with and without brands, working with them to create that type of what we believe is sort of the conversations that need to happen. As an industry, we've done a wonderful job of creating cut sheets. We are horrific when it comes to marketing and messaging because we just haven't invested in it. And what we're trying to do is to bring what's more of like a modern digital media company, content creator, information and community sharing that we think is relevant for the today and tomorrow.
Wow, that's great. Your plate sounds like mine. It's about this full.
Yeah, I joke. I joke. We're doing like 80 pounds inside of a 10-pound LinkedIn bucket. Like, so yeah, that's our desired sort of method to bring it to market.
Yeah, I feel the same way. You know, I do a podcast. I've got a documentary series that I've got going. The Locksmith
day job,
you know, husband, you know, father, yeah. all those things kind of sprinkled in around there. And then we just had a presidential debate for the Associated Locksmiths of America the other day. So I'm running for president for that as well. Definitely trying to make some big changes in the industry. And that's really why I wanted to invite you to talk today is the reason I called this podcast the Locksmith Security Network is because there is a huge overlap between the security industry and between the locksmith industry. And the locksmiths tend to really focus on more of the mechanical aspects, the physical security aspects of things. And really, I always believe we should be looking at everything like a whole. Whenever I teach door classes or access control classes, the first thing that I teach is if you don't have a healthy opening, and we're not looking at the door and the frame and the closer and every single aspect of it, we can put $3,000 worth of access control on here, and it's not going to do anybody any good because we didn't put it on a healthy opening to begin with. So I want to look at that as the whole of our industry as well, welcoming that security industry, welcoming the AI benefits and welcoming all of the other aspects of the industry into the whole picture that is the layers of security. And I think you're the perfect person to talk to about that.
No, I appreciate that. I mean, I'd start off by, you know, we define the today based off of yesterday regularly within our industry. And we've been somewhat of a predictable industry with very defined moats and definitions of who does what and where and why. And the value proposition has historically been really built around this idea of keeping bad people out. whether you're a locksmith, an integrator, you made a lock, you made a door, whatever. It was like the intent of this thing was to keep bad people out. Now, there's different specialties and ways that we approach it into the marketplace. But when our value proposition was that, we've done a really good job of it. And we've, like you said, we've had different people specialize. And then, I would say for all the reasons that are whatever, I'm not going to defend them, nor do I think they need to be defended, but we created what the marketplace is currently now. That's all good. And it's really what it's been, especially if we just talk about electronic access control. Since 1970, it hasn't really changed up until 2020, when digital transformation started to impact our industry and accelerated through COVID. And at that point, what you started to see was a transition into more of a mainstream market that is primarily focused around the utility that has been safety, security, keeping bad people out, but now the desire and need for it to do plus things. And the plus things is that things are starting to get more digital. And because they're becoming more digital, they become to start to look a lot more like enterprise software about what I can do with that utility that I've already put in. So that plus. So I always talk about this as like, historically, the numerator and denominator of our industry, like the denominator never changed, but the numerator did. Well, now the denominator and numerator, the entire market is shifted. And with that, so do the definitions and the ways that we identify and self-identify ourselves. And frankly, I think we need to start commanding the space that we can occupy as an industry. I believe the essential part that we saw coming out of COVID is not just essential because that's what you're deemed to be able to go out and actually do work, but I actually think it's the skill sets that are there are essential, especially when they are then layered with what is the new truths of what's happening in the marketplace, to say, all right, how do I leverage the space that I am here delivering whatever aspect of keeping bad people out have been the utility of safety, but how can I leverage that to also deliver the operational efficiencies, revenue generation, whatever it might be that the customer set that you serve is looking for. It's your opportunity if you frankly lean into it.
Yeah, absolutely. And I go around and I tell people right now, the joke is this is not even the golden age of security. This is the platinum age right now. There's this perfect pocket where all the new buildings are getting low voltage wiring put at every single door. This is just as common as getting plumbing and electricity in a building nowadays. And the old buildings want that new building technology, but they don't want to have to run the wire to it. And that's where there's this huge sector where the locksmith can actually step in, and those big new construction jobs, those are GC, those are general contractor jobs. Those are the big dogs that are doing those applications. But there's this perfect pocket where people can make a very, very healthy income and add, hundreds of thousands of dollars to their bottom line and their company income if they're willing to embrace standalone access or single door hardwired access that can communicate with each other. There is a huge, huge opportunity where it's not big enough for the general contractors to take on because it's not $1 million contract, but you can make a significant amount of money with a 2 or 3 man shop. Even 1 man vans can go out there and install some of this access control. It's getting easy enough to install and interface and use and user-friendly that they can really start embracing this now. I know a lot of people were afraid of running wires and a lot of people are afraid to embrace a lot of that change, but right now is the time. It is right for the taking. And if you're not advancing and you're not getting on that now, in another year, just with what I've seen, you're going to be left so far in the dust, you're not even going to be able to hardly catch up.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, so my thoughts are a couple of things. We can look to other industries to see how this plays out too. If you look at the lighting control industry, which is where actually I started my career a long time ago, this also happened when they had the introduction of RF-based lighting controls, where historically they were wired and they moved, and it was sort of like an entire group of electricians like, wait, I make so much money pulling wire and putting in switches. Now you're going to tell me you're getting rid of wires. What am I going to do? And it's like, well, let me talk to you about how you can sell a $75 dimmer to a $125 dimmer, how you can do programming, blah, 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 and all this stuff. And it didn't take away from a market. It actually grew a market. And I would say there were still the pockets where you could still just pull wire. So it's not like saying, this is an and conversation, not an or conversation. And I think the problem is that it's being presented historically recently aggressively, like you either need to get in or out. No, you can stay doing what you want. But what I would say is just get out of the way and let other people start taking this, right? There's a whole group of people that frankly do work overtime to they say things like, well, this is an industry that slows down. You know, we don't go fast. No, that those truths are true in that world. But that's and if you look at the access control industry, that's the $10 billion market that Omdia says is the keeping bad people out historical high security market. This more mainstream marketplace that's in addition is anywhere from, I say it's 70 billion to 100 billion. And I have math to show that that total addressable market does exist based off of where you want to work within it. And it too exists just like the $10 billion one. What we've had though as an industry is a cottage industry. We're now moving to a more mainstream market, and with that, new market opportunities open. You talk about the GC side, you could do that too. Like there's plenty of opportunities in there, but for those that maybe don't want to go after that because that's not your sweet spot, like you said, yes, I think the single door, two door type of opportunities. I also think there's vertical opportunities. So you can specialize in certain areas like multifamily residential is a booming marketplace. The consumer side is. Some of it's being driven by the fact that now this device is now a legitimate control point, credential wallet for the systems that are there. So it's there. It's just what it comes down to, in my opinion, is a higher level of curiosity and a higher level of desire to want to work through the change that is here, because it does take some work to get there. You can't just wake up and be like, I'm going to do it. Like you got to go then do some work, because you have to understand maybe some IT stuff that you haven't had before. But frankly, honestly, it's all doable if you have that desire and you're curious enough to want to go do it.
Absolutely, absolutely. We're bidding a job right now for a hotel that wants to have private users upstairs, like private tenants, and then they have like commercial space downstairs. And I mean, there's a product that's going to work with the automatic doors to be able to set in a schedule, build it in through the OS on the back end, and just simply knowing that they need to have a central system, a central network or internet capabilities to where they tie just that security system to that, so they're not trying to interface all these different companies together and trying to just get everything under one umbrella. Just understanding the components that are going to need to be required for that, along with on the tech side, and then also understanding the components that are going to need to function mechanically. That is a huge wealth of knowledge. If you have some basic life safety knowledge on exit devices and egress paths and what can actually be put there, and fire code and fire door inspector and all those different things, that's a massive asset. And I've gone on walks with GCs and gotten paid just to help them choose what they need to make that job run smoothly. Even though we may not get all of the install work, we still get some profit in from that, just from having that knowledge base. And knowing those things is absolutely key right now.
Yeah, no, I mean, it's no different than, I mean, these software is eating the world in a lot of different places. Digital transformation's done the impacts that are here. And at some point, the evolution that happens within industries, you have a choice. You can either be part of the group that is out there, riding the wave out in front, and helping shape it, or it's going to shape you. Or in a lot of cases, you can continue doing what you're doing and it maybe not participate in the upside that does exist there. And I bring that up because what I've noticed is sometimes could get feathered. Like I try to, and frankly, not just me, but the group of people that are out trying to push the change is sort of like, we're saying the old is bad and the new is good. And it's not. It's just saying that they're both are good. But again, it doesn't mean that it's not happening because the old is saying it's not. It is happening. And there's a choice that's being made every day. Doing nothing is a choice. And there's a missed opportunity, in my opinion, but you have to want to do that opportunity. Like you're going to have to want to go do it, because it's not as easy as just like, it's not an iteration off of yesterday's lock set. This is a fundamental shift that is questioning whether a lock set should exist.
Right.
And the purpose, like we have hardware driven products from the beginning, and software has been a feature of them. This is now where software is the main player and the hardware is a feature of the software. It's just a fundamental different way that you approach it. Now, this is where the opportunity is. The skill sets that you have of understanding the hardware. Oh man, does that put you in such a catbird seat to be able to extract great value, because it's not easy, as you all know. And frankly, a lot of the software side, although there's cyber community that enjoys lock picking and things like that, it's very different though of like producing locks, making locks, truly understanding the entire door, as you said, like the frames, everything that go into it, and the interplay that is there, as well as video and the other places that you frankly can now take advantage of by being in the position that you all are.
Yeah, absolutely. And there's so much opportunity here. Like the door operators are being tied into the operating system as well, and being tied into the electronic access, and being tied into the physical side of things. I really focus on the physical side of things, but I like to understand what the different softwares do as well, so that I can match my client up with whatever's going to be the best option for them. What is it that you're looking for? What do you need? Well, we need to be able to give full-time residents access via phone, Bluetooth app. We need to be able to give out a RFID. We need our card as well, because some people want a physical type of key. It just makes them feel better. We can hand out e-keys. We can run the complete system on the back end on the OS. Like there's so many different components that they want. And now there's a lot of different options that they have. It's not just one option. It's okay, well, here's what this looks like with a yearly subscription. Here's what this looks like if you own the system. Here's what this looks like if you want to manage it, or if you want to have somebody else help manage it with you, and how much help do you want with that? And just having those little bits and pieces of knowledge just shows that you know what you're talking about, and it helps you land, instead of landing those couple $1,000 master key systems. Now we're talking about tens of thousands of dollars, $50,000-$60,000 access control installation jobs. As you said, I think you put it very, very well. It's not either or, but it's in addition to. It's yes and. I can do this, and I can create your master key system, or we can just put you on a high security key system, which again keeps raising that level up. And if there's one thing that we know in this country, in the United States of America, and it's becoming prominent in other countries as well, is people pay for simplicity. People pay for simplicity, and they pay for the options. Just think about all the different options on a high-end car. Americans want simplicity and convenience, and they pay top dollar for it.
Yeah, I mean, I don't have much more to say on that than you explained it well.
Yeah. So where do you see AI blending into all of this? We see a lot with facial recognition. I know at ISC West, I was overhearing some conversations like stadiums are using facial recognition to make sure that people are of age. The passes, like concert passes and stuff like that, hacking those, and a lot of fraud in that department is being helped with AI and different programs. Can you explain a little bit about that, or what you've heard?
Yeah, so I think a couple of things. Some of that stuff existed before we defined it as AI. So, the introduction of technology and utilizing it, I would look at it as you're seeing AI now. We did the AI Discovery Zone, it was called, in partnership with ISC, and you had a handful of companies that were in there. I think 10 that were there showcasing how they're utilizing AI to deliver value to the market, and it went everything from anomaly detection to automation to, like you said, utilizing the tool of AI to help with higher levels of assurance, the ability to process quickly, and then again, outcomes are like automation and data that is more useful. Let's put it that way. So I look at it as it's a tool, and it's an application. It's being applied to deliver value, depending on what the product that you created or are bringing to marketplace. That's where I think we're at now. The other part that no one talks about in a lot of ways is the utilization of it to get jobs done better. And that may be even where the bigger impact is in our industry that we see now. It just doesn't necessarily show up as a product that is, you're going to buy, but the way that code is being written, the way marketing is doing the messaging, some of the ways that the companies are using the tools to create products is actually where probably we have a bigger amount of income. I know, like for my small company, we utilize AI in a lot of things, whether it's from the content creation side, editing, whatever it might be. We're using them to go do that, which in that makes us far more efficient from the mundane tasks that we have, that we do on a regular basis. The ability for us to create more, and I would say even better, frankly, is still there, but it can't do it on its own. It's we use it and tune it to be able to work with what's good with us, no different than the product companies that are there. And if anything, the other part that it's doing that we don't want to talk about, but it's true, is it's creating this sort of discussion around the art of the possible. There's a belief and an ethos in our that is being created that with tools like this, I can do whatever. And I think that's interesting because we've been an industry again that has been primarily around iteration. We have not been a very innovative industry. We've iterated for the past, if we take electronic access control, for the past 30 years. It's basically been built up the same thing. Now, far different. So with that, this is now creating space and interest, capital's coming into the marketplace that wasn't there before because of the upside return that it believes it can have. And all of that is frankly threatening the traditional norms of our industry and highlighting the ones that are really good. So I think those are the bigger impacts currently now that you're seeing from it. Some of it is being productized. Some of it is just marketing. Some of it is thoughts, dreams, and wishes. But in the end, in my opinion, it's all good because it's moving the industry forward and much faster than it was before.
Yeah, absolutely. And just the way that it's integrating, your cameras are integrating with your security systems. So now you've got facial recognition, and now you've got, the readers and devices around now actually using the facial reading technology is actually now like ready to go. Like it's
Yep.
actually working. I believe the phones have probably really catapulted that with the biometrics and starting with fingerprint and now facial recognition. But now the security companies have got a hold of that technology, and it is all blending together. It's really verifying, is this the correct person? Do they have the correct credentials? Can they access this location? What level of access do they have? And it's just really nice to be able to adjust that and to be able to put that wherever you need to put it on the back end when it's convenient for you, and not have to. I mean, it almost seems archaic to come out and adjust a master key system nowadays. Make an appointment, schedule this. A manager's been fired. They got to wait a day or so where they may still have access with that key before somebody can get out. Yeah. So continuing with that, with AI, it's also, I believe it's going to be taking quite a few jobs, and not really like in a bad way, but I think there is going to be a big change in what people are actually doing, what human beings are actually doing here in the future. And if you want one of those jobs that isn't going to get taken by AI, but is only going to get enhanced by it, I would say the security industry is one of those really, really secure jobs where, a lot of bookkeeping jobs, a lot of repetitive jobs, attorney intern jobs, things like that, they're getting taken over by ChatGPT and Grok and all this stuff, to where one person can pretty much kind of oversee what about 5 or 6 people would normally do. And that's how they're using it to advance faster. Here in the security industry, AI is not going to be installing hardware. It's not understanding what code and egress paths are and staying up to date with building code, fire code, ADA compliance, and all of those different aspects. Whereas if you are a professional, a security professional, and you have that knowledge, you have a gold mine of skills to be able to apply on so many different levels and so many different platforms. You're actually way more valuable than just about anything else. And you don't have to worry about that job being taken away in any way, shape, or form. What do you see AI doing as far as the job market in our industry?
Yeah. So I think, well, two things. I think it becomes it wasn't long ago. You remember when we all would do resumes and you would put on there that you knew like Microsoft Word, right? So first off, an expectation of skill sets of being able to like how you use it is going to be a fundamental sort of just an expected way to work. So if you're not using it, you could be passed because frankly, people are going to be looking for the efficiencies that it delivers to the marketplace, and it becomes an expectation, just like it was that you had to know how to use Microsoft Word or Excel and things like that, right? So that's the first impact. I do agree with you that it doesn't necessarily take away, there's still the need to put your hands on things in the marketplace. I do think it does change, though, where to believe the value of things that certain people deliver. Like, for instance, as more products move to the cloud, more data sets, if you think about it, most of the historical systems that were client server based that sat on site didn't have a central database to where you can mine things like, let's say, I know that on my system there are a million restaurants, so that when I go to configuration of the system, not everything has to be custom done right out of the box. I can push a button that says I'm a restaurant, and it knows that 80% of the restaurants that are in the system set it up like this to start. So it shrinks the configuration time down to where it will automate some of those processes that we've seen value as an integrator specifically of going into, where I would go into the basement and I would be programming the systems from scratch or burning it in at the bench at my office and then bringing it in. It's an evolution is going to 100% happen there, because frankly, the way that the expectation that these systems are going to work, they're just going to have the more consumerized type of an approach that goes in there. There still will be those custom systems, though, from the beginning. So again, this isn't the case that they go away. I just think the mainstream size of it are going to be more these systems that are self-configurable for the to an nth degree are going to be more prominent at the other ones. There are some jobs, yes, like again, I think in marketing, like if your job was creating press releases, I you may want to think about something else on that end, because it's pretty hard to compete with what some of these tools can do on that end. But I'm an optimist when it comes to more of this. I think there's transition and change that happens, and I think it creates more opportunity, again, if you want to. That's also why there's a need, in my opinion, for upskilling that in our industry. Part of what I know, the Security Industry Association, and we're very active and work closely with FAST, the Foundation for the Advancement of Software. For the Foundation for the Advancement of Security Technicians, which is this idea of attracting new talent into our industry, but then also upskilling the talent that are there to make sure that we're relevant for whatever the changes are that are coming down. I think there needs to be more programs. I am not happy. I'm kind of cranky with the way that our industry, especially on the manufacturing side, has approached education and training. I think our certifications are old. I think they are also not sticking with some of maybe the unpredictable partnerships of things like, for instance, I don't know the code requirements and the training for locksmiths, but they probably should be looking at making it 100%. You have to be some aspect of IT certified of some sort, because I believe that becomes more relevant as you move forward, and the more relevant our base of people are, I think the better we serve the customer base that's there and create more opportunity. If we don't, somebody's going to do it.
Yeah, exactly. And I think, the security and alarm field, the locksmith let that slip right out of their hands about 20 years ago, or maybe even 30 years ago. And ADT and these other guys kind of took that over, and the locksmith they could have been right there ready to just capture that, and it just slipped out of their hands because they didn't want to do a lot of the things that were associated with it. But there was so much money back in that with the RMR, monthly recurring revenue. Like, people really need to restructure their entire business plan and be open to these new systems where not only are we getting away from just a $35 rekey and starting to sell a $3,500 access control system, and you're 100xing your margins on that, but then you're making money on the back end because everything is for sale. If I get a licensing platform for that access control system and it costs me $100 a year, I then pass that on to my customer and I charge them $200 a year, and I mark up profit on that because I am running a business. And there's no difference between selling that license and selling the product and the hard pieces themselves. And so many people are missing out on that. I hear people complain about seeing locks on Amazon and people can buy it for themselves and this and that and the other. And I say, well, that customer isn't for me anyways. They never were. They're the DIYers. There's so much other opportunity here with people that just want me to build the system, construct it for them, use my professionalism and knowledge, are willing to pay for it and get a professional grade product at the end of it, and then get that RMR on the back end for who knows how long. Now you're making money while you sleep. What do you have to say? What would you tell people that are in that position, shop owners, to try and help ease that transition? And what kind of opportunities are you seeing there?
Yeah, I mean, honestly, again, you look to other industries. This isn't the inevitable sort of molting, I'll call it, that happens within an industry. And I mean, I think it's fine to have moments where you feel bad for yourself and you moan about it, but at some point you got to decide to make a decision because it's inevitable and you're not going to stop it. And I would argue that in most cases, it creates more opportunity than it doesn't than you currently have now. And again, would you like it to stay the same forever? I'm sure nostalgia is a wonderful, wonderful thing. But the reality is, as the marketplace grows in a way that it goes, and the customers and things like the internet, and like all these things that you're not going to be able to necessarily stop or put, back in the bottle. It is what it is. Like frankly, now it's like, what are you going to do about it? So the energy that is being put into, it's like control what you can control. You can control how you respond and what you do with it. You can make a determination that, you know what, I'm only going to work with brands that are offline and brands that don't utilize the internet. Fine. Like all of that is fine. There's parts of your business that are probably going to reduce because there are other areas that can satisfy those demands at a, cheaper, faster, some cases better, but some cases not, but it's cheaper, faster. It's like what is it? You could have one of these, you can have all three or whatever, or two, or you can have three, right? It is like every sector everywhere is being eaten by the internet and software.
Yep.
We're no different. Now, we may be later in the game than other places, and there are aspects in the area that the internet's not going to necessarily change. Like, I don't know, rekeying, like it's gonna be hard for a computer to do that, right? So great, but that's again, I think those are the spaces you can occupy. It's like, what do you do with it then? Because there's just like, I could drive down the street, there's one in this area that services typewriters. right? So fine, they've made the decision to go do it. They're the one in house. It's expensive, frankly, to go do it, and but there's not 100 of those in where we live, right? So you can be that person. But even in that case, I'm going to argue there's skill sets there that, whether it's marketing and messaging, that is different than what you've historically done before, that you're going to have to change. So my opinion is, I hear you, I feel you.
Mm-hmm.
Take the moment to piss and moan about it, and then frankly do something, because it's inevitable.
Right. I just don't want to see the locksmith go the way of the blacksmith. You know what I mean? When's the last time you called a blacksmith to do something? But if we don't jump on it, if we really don't get involved with it, then it could be headed to that direction where, like you said, somebody's servicing typewriters, or there's a shoe repair place, there's a boot repair place in town. Yeah, there's only one, but boy, I sure don't see that door swinging a whole lot. And I sure as heck don't see a line wrapped around the outside of it like I do at the new iPhone store. So
yeah, I mean, my thought on it is that realistically, and again, this is like legacy thinking, right? Where I agree with you at some point. I think you and I will be dead or retired by the time that matters, right? But it doesn't mean we shouldn't do something about it today.
Right.
But I do believe that there is I'll say it this way. There is a level of swag that locksmiths could have in the marketplace if they understood their true value of what they deliver and were able to communicate it. The problem isn't the internet. The problem is that you have an entire industry that has no idea how to communicate properly.
Yep.
So you can blame external forces of why the change is happening, but I think it'd be far better for you to take an inward look and say, as an industry, we don't show up great.
Yep.
We show up and deliver when we need to,
Mm-hmm.
and then we moan about the fact that no one appreciates it. Well, go make people appreciate it. One of the best things that happened was coming out of COVID, you all were determined to be essential.
Yes.
And then COVID ended and we forgot about that.
Right.
So what are the core reasons you've all been essential? Do the work to continue to move that forward, but like prioritize telling your own story.
Mm-hmm.
Like you got it better than say like, you know, the mall cops. Like
Right.
no, but like the security guard industry, there's a lot of similarities in my opinion to the locksmithing side.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because there's a cartoon character that's been created of what you all are.
Yeah. Yeah. A big overweight guy with a bunch of keys on his belt.
Yeah, that's like, yeah, that tinkers.
Yeah. Right.
Right. But the reality is that you all have a skill set that I believe is going to continue for a long time being essential. And now you have a market that is shifting and confusion in the marketplace, a skill set of things that people don't know how to do what you do.
Right.
And I think there's an opportunity to leverage that. So that to me is the bigger thing. Is like, yeah, all that stuff is true of the outside, but internally we got still work to do. Like,
oh yeah. Yeah, I agree 1,000%. I agree 1,000%. You know, it's funny you mentioned that. I was just on a site with the GC, in fact, and they brought us on to cut in all the strikes and do the master key system and install all the hardware. And let me tell you that there are two ways to go about this. Like you were kind of picturing it as the locksmiths are kind of this pictorial, cartoonish image of somebody who is somewhat irrelevant nowadays. But let me tell you that if done properly, when I walk onto that job site, I own that job site and everybody comes to me and we're thankful you're here. Thank you for taking care of this. We worked with somebody who wasn't as knowledgeable as you were. And it was a nightmare to get these doors set up. It was a nightmare to get the door schedule set up. It was a nightmare to get everything to talk to each other and bring it alive and actually get everything working. When they worked with me, it was like, hey, get out of the way. The locksmith is here. Clear the deck. Whatever you need, just go ahead and do it. Because here's the deal. Somebody explained it like this to me. When you control the doors and you control the access, you control the entire building, because without openings, all you've got is a giant box, right? So if you know how to control those, if you understand how the systems work and how everything is set up, you can be the top tier key player, most valuable player on that job site if you play your cards right, because you have the knowledge of those egress paths, because you know about the fire code, because you know about all those different systems, and you know how to integrate the hardware properly to make everything work. So at the end of the day, when I walk off that job site, the GC is like, damn, you guys kicked butt. You guys came in here, you did everything, it's all working fine, and we love you guys. You're on the next project. And then we're off to the next $20,000, $30,000, $40,000 project. If people really started looking at it from that perspective, and looking at themselves as that key player on that job site, I really feel that the tides would turn and they would be one of the most respected people on the job site.
Yeah, no, I mean, again, somewhat, I don't want to beat a dead horse here, but on that side, it's a level of swag and understanding the impact that you have, and then properly positioning it. Communicating a bit more about the value creation that you do bring versus saying like, it's difficult, I'll take care of it.
Mm-hmm.
You know, that we did that in the access control industry to our detriment, in my opinion. Was like, this is, you know, no one wants to be the person that is in charge of like making sure no one gets shot and stabbed.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like, just let us handle it, we'll take care of it. And like, we did a really nice job of doing that. To the point where, frankly, collectively we deliver very well. We do, to the point where there's not as many of those things happening as the news would probably make you believe that there is. And because of that, though, there's a belief that we don't need to do anything different because they got it handled. Well, the reality is that the market has evolved more, and we frankly have to be the ones that are driving the change versus the ones that are being pulled along and forced to go do it. Because if we don't do it, it's going to be done to us, because again, inevitable market transformations that are happening, and you're not going to stop this one.
There's a tidal wave and it's coming, and you can either ride it, you can get your surfboard and ride it, or you can get taken out by it. That's really what's going to happen right now, but you're going to get wet either way. Might as well ride it out and have some fun with it. You had mentioned a little bit of frustration with the education on these subjects, and could you dive into that a little bit further? What would you like to see as far as education goes? More on-demand training? Is it a association thing? Like where would this training be coming from? How do you see it being applied? And what are you seeing the end result of this being?
Yeah, so a couple things. I just think the continued evolution of the development of the subject matter that is there to continue to be evolved, that I think needs to be updated and done. So whether again it's more IT focused type stuff, maybe some trainings around some of the what I'll call adjacent industries being brought in. I think the associations and how they determine the certifications instead of being protective of what has already been built, but continuously looking at it, saying what could we do better, and adding those into it. There seems to be more of a it's almost become like a club more than a certification in some cases, and for some associations, to where the job is to go get the three letter acronyms after you're there, versus and being part of that sort of then actually the work that needs to be done to go do it. I think manufacturers have just historically done a horrific job of doing it. They've treated it as a means to get access to product versus creating community and a real sense of value to the person. So if I was to take a look like someone who does a good job of it, go look at what Salesforce does with the certificates training that they do. Like fundamentally, it is now it's like it's a culture, like, to be part of that. And there's a direct connection to, I got certified here and it increased my value, that my take home pay by 40 grand, whatever. Like, they even have people wearing jackets. Like, it's a thing. Like, they've created it into a community. We've done it as a transactional type of an approach that says you need to do this training and have 2 people on staff in order to get access to my products. Like, okay, I get that, but like, there's also other reasons that you'd want to participate in ways to dive deeper into brand loyalty, and like a lot there. I also believe, yes, the format of which we do it. We've evolved from in person only to doing webinars now.
Yep.
And online tools. I do think we can, maybe in some areas break down the 3-month, 6-month track into 2-week sprints, and leveraging more tools like on demand, and taking a look at like what even colleges and universities are doing that one before were not able to. While if you look at it, you can go, I think it's like Harvard and Cornell and all these other places, Stanford, they've got all of their curriculum there for you to go do it and then take it. And they see the dissemination of the information as net positive for the industry to go do that, versus it being just using the same old ways to go do it. I think it's used in some ways as a tool to get people to go to shows versus and I get it, but why you go do that to go drive it? But again, I think you got a show problem there, and you should just not treat your education. Now, I understand density of people coming together, so you have it, blah blah blah. I get all that. You should definitely do it, but let's be real. If we're having honest conversations, that's not the only reason why we do it now. They're using it as a tool to get people to show up to the show. Right. So the leveraging of technology, advancing the curriculum, really utilizing it for the essence of what it's supposed to be for, tying it to actually how it betters the individuals to be able to create career versus it being an exercise of getting access to product. I think all of those things need to be done better, and we should continue to look at it as enablement in a lot of ways. That's where I feel that we need to spend more time.
Okay. Yeah, that's those are all really, really great points. And like you said, that we really need to come and bring our A game when we're creating these programs. Like you said, sometimes the inside sales turns into like they try and do a class. Like if a specific manufacturer is doing a class or giving that instructional activity, the word that I hear after that when it gets out is sales pitch. And I think taking a little more look at what the product does, and maybe being more willing for manufacturers to blend and say, hey, we make the best power supply, and that can be paired with a variety of other products to really get the customer what they need. is also something to look at. Like when I design my classes, we mix and match things. Sometimes this is the best solution for this problem, and sometimes this is the best solution for this problem. And sometimes there's a hybrid, sometimes it is one brand specific, but really just melding everything together and getting the customer what they need, I think should be the number one priority. And I would like to see more of that at trade shows and events as well, along with the locksmith industry embracing on-demand training better and more often. You're fairly familiar with a lot of the associations on the security side.
Sure.
What are some of the biggest challenges that they're having right now? Are you seeing membership increase or decline? Or with the associations tend to offer education and networking, but the internet has also taken a huge portion of that away from those associations. So what can they really do, and what can they really offer the membership to really provide that value for them?
I mean, full disclosure, I'm on the board of the Security Industry Association, so I mean,
Yeah.
I'll do my best not to poke others in the eye and not mine, if you would. But just in associations in general, I think they serve a purpose depending on who they are and what they do and where they're at. So like the Security Industry Association, which is here in the DC area, they advocate on the Hill on a regular basis. So like they do a really good job of that. They put on a wonderful show to show innovation, and they work closely with the show organizer to do so. They do a good job on education, standards and things like that, of like moving. So like OSDP, which is the standard within our industry. So creation of that and then disseminating that information out and being an area that of certification and that has to be done on that end. And then, I mean, the networking side of what they do. Some do a good job of it, some do not anymore. So that it just wanes and changes as it goes. I mean, I think the associations, you know, they're so heavily tied to all of them, to their trade shows in sponsorship, that it sometimes gets in the way of serving. And again, this is not specifically SIA, it's not Aloha, it's not ASI. I'm not speaking to anyone specific. I'm just saying in general. And as somebody who actually has a networking group myself, you know, we work hard to, and it's definitely not an association. I don't want to color it that way at all. And make sure we differentiate from. But if you think about it, it's like it's serving the constituents properly, and being able to stay true to what the essence of what you are. And sometimes these associations turn into trade show companies, because there's such a high level amount of revenue that comes through for them in order to operate, to go do that I think they lose sight of exactly what their purpose and mission is. So there's almost like a reset. I don't understand why we believe that we have to continue in some of these. You know, I jokingly say there's reasons why there's museums. Like at some point, just because we've been doing it doesn't mean we have to continue doing it. Right. And there may be a case where some of these they just need to, maybe, I don't know, they need to merge with others. They need to, you know, not exist. They need to get a better investment. They need to rethink the way that they partner and, you know, what the mission is. Maybe, you know, decluttering some things, if you would, and focusing would be good on that end. You know, there's it too is part of this transition that's happening. So they need to also transition, right? So again, I'm not an expert in what they need to do, and it's always easy to be sitting in the, you know, the passenger seat telling people what to do. But overall, I think there just needs to be an evolution that happens in a lot with some of these, and really take a hard look at, all right, if we were to take that, you know, Men in Black thing stick where it like it erases our memory, like currently, but doesn't lose sight of the background that we do have. So what would we do different? I think there's a good amount of these industries that need to go do that, and maybe give out some awards, let some people retire, let some new blood come in.
Right. That's one of the things I'm facing right now. In full disclosure, I'm on the Aloha board as well. So I understand that. And that's really why I want to ask you some of these questions. I would say all of these associations and the industry as a whole is at a pivot point right now. And those that are willing to be flexible and pivot in the direction where things are going. You know, the great Wayne Gretzky, I don't go where the puck is, I go where the puck is going. That's where you need to be. That's the most valuable spot to be, because that's where you're going to have the opportunity. that's where everything lies. And it is hard to change that old guard's mind. And people are very resistant to change. But once again, if we don't, we're going to get left in the dust. And that's where these associations are finding some problems. The internet and chat groups and manufacturers and even suppliers now, you can get education and training just about anywhere in the country, almost any time of the year, from a manufacturer or from a supplier, whereas they don't have to come to the associations anymore for that. The main thing that the associations have to offer are in licensed states, you would offer CEU credits or continued education credits. And that's really where that value comes into play, where you can take those classes and the association can still bring in an income from those resources for those continued education credits where there are licenses or where licensed states are. So that there does need to be a big pivot point and a big shift in everybody's thinking right now. And if not, yet again, you're going to be left in the dust and you're going to see these declines in numbers until you get on the right path and the members vote with their money. When your membership starts to climb, now you know that you're on the right path, and how can we continue to provide those things that we need to provide for our members? What are some of the things that your association is doing to attract new members right now? Some of the team members.
I mean, so SIA is leveraging the exposure that the show does have, so it's using it as a tool to garner the attention that it demands. I mean, it just had the show happen in April, and you were there, you said too, and I saw you. And you could feel an energy that is different there around that show. So there's a moment happening. So they're using to capture that. They are spending a good amount of time on the Hill with a lot of things that are going on currently right now, whether it's tariff related. So I'll call this more like now timely type things that come up. But there's also been a whole lot of stuff that's been going on around the right to repair, some of the things around ethical biometrics and ethical AI and things like that they're doing. I believe that there's this outreach into the college universities. They've got a big push into like women in security. They got a big push into they have a program there called Rise, which is focused on young professionals and bringing them. And I talk, it's like creating some swag of why this is an industry. We joke, like, I'll do this at presentations. I'll be like, who here, decided to go into the security industry? And it's like, no hands go up, right? It's like the security industry happens to you. It does. You don't happen to go do it. And it's like, all right, well, when you put those jokes aside, it's a sad state in some cases because it's not seen as an industry that people want to go pursue and to go do, but it should be, because if you think about the economic security that it has given to a lot of people within our industry, the value, the thing that it's not slowing down, the intrinsic value that we deliver of keeping people safe, like there's industries that wish it had all the stuff that we have. We just package it shitty. And so it's how do we bring swag and make it approachable and something that people want to go into as an industry? So they've done a lot of that type of work, and then they do these micro shows, I'll call them. So there's one here called GovSec that's going on. Yeah. So yeah, there's a lot going on.
Yeah. Yeah. There's an electrician that I was working with, and just to kind of give people an idea, like electrician's one of those trade professions. Oh, top tier pay. I want to go be an electrician. Those guys make the real money. Everybody on the job site says that. Well, when I step on the job site, the electrician says that about me, because he's like, hey, man, I've been here pulling wire for 4 hours in a hot, sweaty attic, and you show up and you cut in 2 electronic strikes and mount 2 pieces of hardware on the door. You don't even break a sweat, and your invoice is twice as much as mine. What happened? I said, I went into the security industry. I went into the locksmith side of things. And he's like, wow, that's pretty cool stuff. And then you start to get those people and they start to integrate over into low voltage. And like you said, it kind of happens to you rather than people really looking at it as a trade to go into when they get out of college with a technical degree or whatever they have, or even a trade or vocational school. So I think approaching those people in that position would be something that the industry could do to help that as well. We're coming up on about an hour here, so I just want to give you a chance to say anything else that you've got, plug any of the stuff that you're doing, the podcast, where are you going to be over the next couple months? Where do people need to be? What's happening, and what's the coolest stuff that you're going to be doing?
No, I appreciate that. So personally, what we're doing, we have ACS coming on, the Access Control Summit in San Sebastian, Spain. at the end of May. From there, we've got a whole bunch of shows that we activated. So, in North America, ISC East, we also have the security event in Singapore, and then we also have Intersec Saudi coming up. We'll have Thought Leadership Pavilion. So I know you have a domestic here in North America, but you also have a global viewership. So if anybody's in those marketplaces or wants to connect, please, by all means, reach out and go do that. There's also some other shows and things too that I tell you to get involved in. So you got Securing the Ground is a CS show that gets put on in New York City. It's really a good thought leadership show on that end. I know Aloha's got a show coming up that you have too. So any of those, just get active and go out into the marketplace on that end. Online, there's also this omni-channel opportunity. We've been historically an offline industry that leverages sort of the online to showcase what we did offline. And what I would tell people is there's a vibrant community and conversation that's happening. Mine is primarily done on LinkedIn and then within our own Slack group that we have. But on the LinkedIn side, just engage there as well. We post, on a daily basis, 3 to 6 times a day content that we're producing and putting out through that distribution as well as YouTube. So engage there would be the other place that I would tell you, I would love to see the locksmith, like what you're doing, Wayne, engage more into the information. I've had some good engagement with, there's a handful of your peers here in North America, as well as some with ELF out in the European Locksmith Federation, and then the MLA in the UK. So it's there. It's a little bit spotty, but I think I would just encourage this community to set the time aside to get out of the local market and start engaging in the broader marketplace. I think by doing so, it will have direct impact on what happens in your local market. And I think you'll find a whole bunch of, a whole community of people that would love to engage.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, I want to thank you so much for taking time out of your very, very busy day and very busy schedule to be here today. It's been an absolute pleasure. I really hope people take heed and really listen to this. And I think that it's going to take leaders and thought leaders like ourselves to really kind of pave that way and show what's possible. And once we show what's possible, then it'll be a lot easier for people to say, wash, rinse, and repeat. There's the formula. There's going to be some trailblazers blazing that trail and coming up with the formula. And once the formula is there, it'll make it a whole lot easier to kind of beat down that path for other people to follow behind and join in on this. So I think we
sure hope so.
Yeah, I think we touched on
it.
Yeah, exactly. Well, thank you so much, Lee. I'm going to put your LinkedIn information down in the context below. So if anybody wants to reach out, true professional, one of the most well-known people on the security side of the industry, Lee Odess, thank you so much for being with us today.
Thank you, Wayne. Appreciate the opportunity.
Thank you. Welcome to the Locksmith Security Network. LSN is your powerful resource, hosted by Wayne Winton for all things locksmith and security.